Before we start today's show, today we want to give a big shout out to Buzz TV. Man, Buzz TV has some really good devices, man. Like this last year, they've come up with some good stuff, and this new year, I'm excited to see what they got.
Yo, it's going to be straight fire. Some devices and features, because I don't want to say one or the other. With Buzz TV, it's hand in hand. They've dropped some fire devices and some amazing features that are always taking things to the next level.
So don't forget to check out the description below.
You know, no matter where you guys are listening, watching, whatever from, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, that like, drop us a comment, and the reviews actually help us a great deal. If you're looking to do anything for us in this year coming and beyond, the reviews help other viewers like yourself find this podcast and enjoy it as well. So thank you guys. And with all that being said, let's start the show.
And welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Streams. It's been a minute since we put out a podcast. We took kind of a little bit of a personal break, and I'm going to be doing today's podcast of a weekly news update solo. So I'm sorry if it's not as entertaining with the back and forth commentary, but you know, the weekly news keeps rolling and I got to keep giving you that content. So we're going to roll right into it. This is probably going to be about a 45-minute episode, maybe 40 minutes, somewhere along those lines. So we're going to get into some of the articles that happened recently and my take on it. I would love to hear your guys' opinion down in the comment section below. And as always, guys, we appreciate all of your feedback, your reviews that you leave us for the podcast. Make sure that you check us out on YouTube on the Beyond the Streams channel, as well as the BS Clips channel, where we post clips every single day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, about all the different content that we cover in short, bite-sized pieces for you guys to enjoy. So we're going to roll right into it. This is our weekly tech news, and a lot of people have been talking about LG. Now, LG announced officially they're shutting down their worldwide mobile phone business. It's been a very interesting decision, but it's not something that a lot of people didn't see coming. LG has done a fantastic job bringing a lot of good phones to the market, but there are some key places where they had issues, and they definitely had a lot more competition than they could handle. Also, LG's focus when it comes to their product line has definitely changed within the recent year to 2, I would say. They are definitely doing some great things when it comes to home appliances, but this year when I went to CES virtually, they did announce, I believe it was with Magna, that they're going to be working on some smart tech that's going to be incorporated into the automotive industry. And I don't see a whole lot of companies that are going into the smart home industry, maybe not like Samsung. There's been some speculation and some talk about Apple, but in regards to smartphones in particular, there hasn't been any companies that really infiltrated their smart capabilities from the mobile industry into the automotive industry. Now, we talked about Fire OS in the past. That's going to be hitting up Jeep within the next year, coming out with their own Fire OS on their screens inside of their devices. But to be honest, I have a lot more faith in regards to what LG can put across than what Amazon can. We all saw what happened with the LG, no, not the LG, the Amazon Auto device. It was, I don't even want to talk about it. Let's just not talk about that device. So a lot of us over the years have had LG devices, and generally the consensus was when you went to upgrade for your devices, and I think I'm speaking for a lot of people when I say this, you generally would have to pick between Apple, Samsung, but if you wanted a free phone and something that didn't hit the bank at all or very minimally in regards to how it affected your plan, you were going with an LG device. Now, a lot of this changed within the last few years with Samsung really putting out a solid effort in their A device lineup, their A series. And a lot of these cell phones like Apple and Samsung have done a fantastic job, not just creating a good product, but doing a fantastic job when it comes to marketing. We have to understand that a lot of these devices that we hold in our hands now, they bring a certain social element to it, right? People will ask you, what kind of phone do you have? Or I have a Samsung, or I have an Apple. And that actually means something to somebody, right? It's difficult to say something besides a Samsung or an Apple because it's almost a societal status at this point, right? A lot of people are built into certain ecosystems, and certain ecosystems like Apple have very specific applications that work within it itself, like iMessage, right? Android is a little bit more open source. There's a lot of different applications, but there's no application that's really specific. Well, that has the popularity as iMessage, right? I'm sure there are applications that are open source that were built on the Android market that hasn't hit iPhone for sure, right? But it doesn't have the same popularity as iMessage does, right? So when I look at what happened to LG, it was kind of compounding between the marketing, because they were not scared to take certain risks when they came out with cell phones. We had things like we had phones that flipped from all different angles, ones that kicked up, ones that had the wing where it was kind of like a T version of it. They did a lot of interesting things. They tried high quality audio DACs, all kinds of good stuff. I owned a couple LG models, flip phones to the G series, and they were generally pretty good. But there were nothing that really made a social status. And the problem comes to what I've heard other tech content creators say as well. There was never a big reach from LG side to reach out to content creators on the platforms to say, hey, we're going to throw you some phones, create some content, create some buzz around it. A lot of the content creators that I've talked to or I've listened to, they would have to purchase the LG phones outright with their own money. Now, I don't talk specifically to the MKBHDs or the Unbox Therapies or, you know, any of those big influential ones. And I'm sure those guys would get them for free. But there's a lot more content creators than just the handful that have over 10 million subscribers, right? And some of these companies spend a lot of their marketing money, yes, on creating content and commercials. However, they also spend marketing budget on getting samples out. There's some companies that will send samples out as review models, and then the reviewer has to send it back after a short period of time. So it just didn't seem that LG was that invested in really creating that buzz or that hype to have people really desire these phones. And when they couldn't create that social status the same way that Apple and Samsung were able to, it became more increasingly difficult to compete against the budget tier when the A series phones look very, very similar to the flagship phones that Samsung was producing at a very cost efficient value and price. So compoundingly, it was getting more and more difficult. So we're going to skim through this article. That was kind of my rant on where I am coming from when I think about LG. I hope I didn't rub anybody the wrong way, but that's just my personal viewpoint. So this article goes on to say that it was a strategic decision approved by the board directors earlier today. The company is focusing on electric vehicle components, kind of like I was just mentioning, connected devices, smart home, robotics, artificial intelligence, and business-to-business solutions. That said, LG will continue developing mobility-related technology with 6G touted to be in its press release. Now, 6G is the next evolution of wireless connectivity, and it can do so much more than just phones. So there's going to be a lot more companies that are going to be utilizing 6G to develop the next evolution of tech and the mobility of it, right? It also said details related to the employment will be determined at the local level. LG expects to complete the shutdown of its mobile division by July 31st, 2021. Existing inventory will remain available for sale, while existing phone owners will continue to get support and software updates for the unspecific period of time. Now, this actually was confirmed to be 3 years. Of course, they would have to say 3 years at this point, or they probably wouldn't be able to sell the devices that they still have in stock, right? You want to be able to give that support so that you can still sell the products there and it's not a complete loss. As you can see here, they talk about, LG had the wing, they had the rollable phones, they had the curved phones, they had the ones that kicked up. There's a lot of different styles of phones that LG had. So this article goes on a little bit more to talk about some of the other phones they had. So this one kind of sits up on its side. Let's see. This one was called the LG Fusic, and it was a largely unremarkable flip phone with a twist. That's what the article says, not me. The next phone that is part of this article is the LG V, and this one kicked up and it had a full keyboard on the bottom half of it, and it kicked up kind of in a landscape mode. I think there was also a Voyager, Optimus G, LG G2. I had the G2 and G3, or it might have been the G3 and the G4. I actually think it was the G3 and the G4. And they were okay devices. They were also part of the Nexus lineup, which was interesting. I was actually thinking, if I kind of feel like if OnePlus would have partnered or taken over the flagship of Nexus or even of Pixel, it would be a very interesting device in general. But now OnePlus is looked at as a flagship device. They're no longer a flagship killer. They're right up there with the big guys. So it is completely, it's a completely different market out there right now. So it's getting weird. So you can see here that they have the LG Wing where it flips up. And I kind of like the way that this is. But when we have things like the Samsung Flip 2 and the Samsung Flip 3 that's coming out this year, I don't know what's a better design choice. They both have their pros and cons. So it is what it is. This one, the G5, was an interesting device because it was somewhat modular, but they never made any more modules for it, which was weird. So they've done a lot of one-off things. And I've always liked the idea of a modular phone, because we should have the ability to upgrade parts of our phone. Like if I could add more RAM to my phone, then maybe my phone could last me more than 2 years. You know what I mean? If I could add more storage to it. I know I've seen videos on YouTube where people have gone and manually upgraded parts of their phone, added more memory, added headphone jacks to phones that don't have headphone jacks. Some pretty interesting stuff. If you can get creative enough, then you can find that information, right? So unfortunately, losing a manufacturer or a company in any field is not going to be good for consumers, because the more companies that we have competing within a field is the better it is for consumers. The more competition is, the more value that we get for our dollar. Generally, prices stay a little bit more competitive. So unfortunately, we're losing LG in that race. But I do think that LG has a lot of interesting things on the horizon when it comes to automotive. And there's a lot of big plays that are coming out for automotive. A lot of new companies like Lucid, and Volkswagen's doing some big things. We've seen Hyundai and a lot of the other companies that are doing some really interesting things when it comes to, the EV market and automotive. So again, guys, let me know what you guys think about LG in the comment section down below. Let me know, have you owned an LG phone? Was LG one of your first devices when you got into the smartphone evolution? Because for a lot of people, LG was one of the first smartphones they owned when they're coming into the smartphone industry and the evolution. So let me know what you guys think about that. The next article that we have today is this very interesting article that I seen on CNET talking about the Samsung Galaxy S21 phones have lost half their value since January. Think about it, guys. We were only in the first quarter of 2021, and these phones have lost 50% of their value. That is insane. Generally, I know just from, back in the day, I used to buy and sell phones. I used to like to have different kinds of phones and test out different phones. And I would use one for a period of time and I would sell it on the buy and sell markets. And then I would buy another phone. So from doing that, I knew that Apple generally had a better resale value, but I was an Android guy. So it is what it is. I stuck to my Androids. But this is very interesting to see that we've gotten to a point that a phone loses 50% of their value right off the bat. Now, I do also want to kick this off by saying the mobile industry is so different now versus when smartphones first came out. We see more companies, and this is going to relate back to the last article in regards to LG, but there's more companies like Samsung out there that, they'll put out a price and it'll be a flagship price, or they'll be kind of the higher end of whatever market that phone is hitting. If it's the A series, if it's the Galaxy series, if it's the Note series, whatever market they're hitting, it'll be a little bit higher, but they leave that room for a marketing budget. They'll give incentives to the dealers. They'll give incentives to the customers. There's more incentives to purchase their devices because there's that room within that budget, right? They charge a little bit more for it. And I think because there is that room for that marketing budget, as they start to get a little bit older and they start to do actual sales on their devices, because it doesn't take them long to take a couple $100 off of a cell phone. Within the first few months, you start noticing that phones start to decrease in value. No, I take that back. They do not decrease in value. They decrease in price because more companies now are producing phones and they're competing within the same market within their brand, right? We look at, devices like the Note. We have the Note Ultra, we have the regular Note, the S21 line, we have the Ultra, we have the Plus, we have the regular, and it goes down the line like that. Even the A series, we have the 71 or 72, we have the 51, 52. I'm not sure exactly how the A series models go, but you get the idea, right? You have so many models from the same brands that are competing with themselves that their price does get very, very competitive. So this article goes on to say the latest phones from Samsung are already worth a whole lot less if you try to sell them on the secondhand market. Samsung's latest flagship smartphones launched at the end of January and have already lost around half of their value, according to the study published Wednesday by Cell, C-E-L-L, a site that lets you sell your used phones. Losing most of the value is the 256 gig model, which used is worth 57% less than it retails for when it's new, and 51% less for the 128 gig model. This means that while the S21 5G goes for $1,000 new, the most you'll get reselling it is $429. The Galaxy S21 5G Plus is worth around 50% less for the 256 gig model, 45% less for the 128 gig model, and the Galaxy S21 Ultra loses the least amount, but is still worth 47% less than the 120 gig model, and 53% less for the 256 gig model. Now, the slight trend that you'll notice there is that, the bigger the phone is generally how it holds up in regards to its value as well. People generally have a little bit more of a societal status, I would think, when they have bigger phones. A lot of people think bigger phones are better, but it's not necessarily the case these days. The other part is, storage is getting dramatically cheaper as, time goes on. So the difference between, the actual hardware cost price from 128 gigs versus 256 is marginal when it comes to buying in bulk, and especially with Samsung actually producing a lot of these chipsets themselves. So it is what it is. So it says, despite only launching in January 2021, all handsets have lost almost 50% of their value. Cell said in a report that this is a substantial loss considering they have only been on the market for 3 months. By comparison, the iPhone 12 range has fared better in returning its value despite launching only a few months earlier than the Samsung phones. According to the study, the iPhone 12 mini 256 lost the most value at 33%, losing the least amount of value was the iPhone 12 Pro Max, which was 128 gigs, and it only depreciated by 18%. Now, that's kind of what I was saying in regards to before. iPhones generally lose or depreciate at a much slower rate than other phones. So, yeah, people tend to hang on to their phones or lean more towards iPhones because of the depth of their ecosystem. They have a lot of products that work with itself, and they're not diluted like the Android market, right? You can buy a lot of different devices or applications that'll work with any Android phone. Doesn't matter if it's a Samsung, LG, whatever, doesn't matter what it is, right? So that's kind of the difference there. But it is interesting. And I'm going to kind of end this point in regards to the Samsung phones losing a lot of their value, because I do also think that there is an evolution when it comes to the consumer that starts on a smartphone. So if they start on an A series with Samsung and they like their device, I think that there's a very good likelihood to move to something like a Galaxy series phone. Or if they have a Galaxy series phone, I think there's a good likelihood that they might move to a Note phone. And because these phones come out different times of the year, then it could be the point where people are just trying to get rid of devices and moving to the next greatest thing, because we have 4 different stages when it comes to devices with Samsung Mobility. We have the A series, we have the Galaxy series, we have Note, and now we're into the 3rd generation of the flip devices. It's a very interesting mobile, I don't know what you want to say, ecosystem that we have, all the different devices on there. So we have to also be mindful that it is now easier than ever to get smartphones. The smartphone market is diluted with phones from all different companies, especially Apple and Samsung. So because people are so familiar with these devices, they're more likely to try out more devices from that manufacturer. I mean, that's just my opinion. You guys let me know what your thoughts are on these devices losing more than 50% of their value within the first quarter of the year. It's interesting. I think that a lot more people are also handing down their devices to their kids now. A lot of their schooling is completely online, but it doesn't necessarily mean they need a computer to do a lot of their schooling. A lot of the schooling is managed through things like Google Classroom and Google Meets, which can be done from these devices, which don't cost an arm and a leg if you get them from a buy and sell market or if you buy them used. So it's definitely very interesting what we're seeing with cost and value when it comes to the secondhand market in regards to mobility. So it's very interesting. I'm looking forward to what value means when it comes to mobility in the next year or two, because I'm not sure if we plateaued when it comes to flagships. I think design, there's definitely some room to push the barriers, and that's what we're seeing with the flip phones right now. They're not staples right now. You're not seeing everybody out there with a flip phone, but I think more and more people are looking for value when it comes to smartphones. And they're starting to find it with the A series. They're starting to find it with the secondhand market, because a flagship phone that came out last year or the year before, dropping down to $300-400 is going to probably be better than a mid-tier phone that's going to be costing either around the same or $100 or $200 more. It's just interesting to see what's going to happen with these devices that are so good that don't necessarily mean that they're outdated 2 or 3 years down the line. All right, so moving on to the next article. Lenovo's new gaming phone has a 720 hertz touch response rate phone. This phone is insane. Despite a bumpy start, phone makers have given up on gaming handsets. I think this is going to be really interesting. So it goes on to talk about cloud gaming services such as the Xbox Game Pass, Google Stadia, And it says the likes of Asus and China's Nubia have released powerful devices designed for gaming on the go. Now, Lenovo is returning to the arena with following up to its first gaming phone from last year. So this is the second one Lenovo's done. The new Legion Phone Duel 2 retains the original focus on the landscape use, but doubles down on controls by adding a total of 8 virtual keys to bring in a closer feel of a gamepad. Its octa triggers include 4 ultrasonic shoulder keys, 2 rear and 2 in-touch display touch points. These are paired with a 720 hertz touch sampling rate, more than double the responsiveness and accuracy offered by the Asus ROG 5 and the Nubia Red Magic 6, which are both great phones. Lenovo says that the setup is designed to match a gamer's natural grip when held horizontally, allowing you to perform more action in battle when speed counts. Now, if you are a gamer, you understand that speed can mean everything when you are dealing with latencies and response rates and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's very interesting. Of course, none of these controls would matter if the new Legion didn't have the specs to back them up. Lenovo's device is the latest to join the Qualcomm Snapdragon 888. So that is the absolute newest flagship processor. Alongside its gaming-oriented rivals, it also retains the smooth 144 hertz refresh rate from the Legion, the original one, which matches the Asus ROG 5, but falls short of the latest Nubia 165 hertz refresh rate screen. So it is not the fastest refresh rate screen, but let's be honest, 144 hertz is nothing to knock the phone about. It's still a great speed. Most phones these days, the general public has, even the flagship ones, are rocking 120, right? It's not a standard to see above 120 yet, unless you get into some of these gaming phones. So it also goes on to say that the quirky pop-up selfie camera on the side is back too. It's because it's meant to really be used in a horizontal mode. So they have a 44 megapixel pop-up camera on the side, while it's got a 6.9 inch AMOLED full HD display. It's a tad larger than the ROG 5, and it supports full HDR10 plus. The Legion features a cooling system powered by twin turbo fans inside of the phone when you're gaming for longer periods to keep it cool. Lenovo has also stuck the phone's processor right in the middle, so your fingers don't feel as much heat in the landscape mode. And the new handset also packs dual batteries that combine to offer 5,500 milliamps of power, 10% more than its predecessor, along with quicker 90-watt fast charging and two USB-C ports. The price for the phone is going to start around $1,185 US for the 16 512 gig model, while charging docks with the charging dock included, while the 12 gig 256 gig variant without the extra accessories cost $948. Now this is kind of, I don't know. It always bothers me when companies do this. So if they're not going to include the charging dock, I'm curious, are you going to be able to get the same 90-watt charging from something else, right? I would rather just get the, right now at least, because unless there's more standardization when it comes to, the charging bricks and the charging cables that work with every device, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the same charging speeds that the companies are advertising unless you're using the right ones that are meant for the products. So yes, it is a little bit cheaper of the price. You are getting more RAM and more onboard storage, but are you sacrificing? Sorry, you're getting more RAM, but not more. Hold on a second. You're not getting more RAM onboard storage. So this is a cheaper variant. For personally, if I was to get this device, I would be going to 16 gigs of RAM and the 512 gigs of onboard storage. That's insane. I don't think that I've seen a phone with 16 gigs of RAM yet. Building computers, when people ask me, how much RAM do I need? Basically, I tell everybody you need 16 gigs of RAM to start. Depending on what you're doing, you go from there. You jump to 32 if you are a serious gamer, but there's very rare amounts of people out there. There are some, of course, that use 64 gigs and above. If you get into a lot of, editing and After Effects and Photoshop and all that kind of stuff, yeah, you can take advantage of more memory than that. But it's so crazy that we are seeing this in a cell phone these days, right? It's just, what's next? Are we going to see cell phones with 32 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of RAM? Are we no longer going to have computers? Everything's going to be done on a cell phone that's casted to a monitor. It's absolutely insane. So Lenovo is not a big heavy hitter when it comes to, the dominance of the mobility market. However, I do think that mobile gaming is that increasingly getting more and more popular, right? I do also think this is where it's going to get really, really interesting, but you don't necessarily need to have a whole bunch of hardware in these handheld devices, because I think that a lot more and more of these gaming efforts are going to be focused on cloud-based gaming. Things like Steam, things like, Stadia, Amazon has Luna, there's the Xbox Cloud. There's so many different ones out there, and more and more are partnering with other services. We see services out there like Plex that's offering, Atari gaming through the cloud. So it's just so many things out there that I don't know if we're going to see a phone with 32 gigs of RAM. Like, it doesn't make sense if the gaming is going to be processed through the cloud. So it's going to be very interesting. You guys let me know what you guys think about this. It's really cool, but longevity of gaming phones, I think, are going to be really, really different as we get into 2022, 2023, and beyond. Now, T-Mobile has announced a widespread launch of its consumer home internet service. This is a hotspot service. Very, very interesting stuff, guys. I think it was Verizon that just had a huge recall on hotspots. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section down below. I could be wrong, but it was a large amount of hotspots that was recalled. Now we have T-Mobile that's announcing a widespread launch that they're going to be able to provide, in-home hotspot internet services at $60 a month. And it's ready to be launched, and you can have it in your home. And this is what I'm talking about when we start to get into things like 5G and 6G. More and more companies are going to feel more confident that they can provide stability when it comes to hotspot home internet service and access, right? T-Mobile's long-teased home internet offering is exciting, the pilot stage, and becoming a real product. As a part of its Uncarriered Next event, on Wednesday, this already happened. The nation's second largest wireless carrier finally added details to its plans to take on Comcast, Charter, and rural broadband providers, AT&T, Verizon, in the home broadband arena. Available today, the new service takes advantage of T-Mobile's 4G LTE and 5G networks, and it'll cost a flat $60 a month with automatic payments enabled and has no taxes, contracts, or equipment fees for the 4G and 5G modem rentals that also doubles as Wi-Fi routers. The home internet product offers unlimited data, with T-Mobile touting that the home internet service also has no throttling. Well, that's a very interesting statement there. Very interesting statement, no throttling. So we also have to understand that this is not a direct line. This is going through the cell phone towers. It's a hotspot. So if you are a serious gamer, I wouldn't recommend a hotspot. You're going to have a variation when it comes to latencies and all that kind of stuff. So, but if you are just an average user, you want to use it to watch media, to stream media, stuff like that, you're going to be fine. But if you are going to be looking for something that requires, very low latencies like gaming, then you may not want to go with something like this. However, there is a large majority of people in rural areas that have a difficult time getting decent speeds. So this is going to be an interesting way for those people to access the internet. It's going to be an interesting time to see what happens, because Starlink has been released within the last year as well, and that's Elon Musk's a version of wireless internet that's gone through satellites. And from all the reviews that I've seen, it's done a pretty decent job bouncing off satellites to give you half decent latencies and decent speeds in rural areas. Places where people were struggling to get 20 megabytes a second are able to get 50 and 60 now, which is more and more becoming a standard download speed. So who knows who's going to come out on top? Is it going to be Starlink, or is it going to be T-Mobile? So very interesting stuff. It says the carriers says it will be making the service available to 30 million Americans to start across the 48 continuous states and Hawaii, with the expected average download speeds of 100 megabytes a second. Now that's pretty good, I would say. For reference, Netflix recommends the download speed of 5 megabytes a second for watching HD, or 25 megabytes a second for 4K streaming, while Zoom recommends the speed of 3.8 with an upload speed of 3 megabytes a second for HD. Okay, so let's just talk about that really, really quickly. When we talk about speeds, yes, it's going to give you 100 megabytes a second. And yeah, Netflix recommends 25 megabits a second for 4K streaming. However, there is very few households that is only using one connection of internet at a time. You're going to have at least 3 or 4 different people using the internet for different things. So, that's not going to be a dedicated speed for Netflix, let's say, right? So just keep in mind, the more people that you have in your house is the more people that's going to be bringing down, what each individual connection is going to be able to use at a simultaneous time. Also, the 100 megabytes a second is an approximation. It also would probably depend on your connection to that cell phone tower and, everything that's going on around you as well, and how many people are hitting that cell phone tower. Wednesday's launch marks the next stop in a long journey for T-Mobile, which has been talking about its ambitions to use the 5G to deliver a home internet service for years. In recent months, it has expanded its pilot program from relying on 4G LTE to being able to use 5G, while adding additional cities and towns in preparation for a widespread rollout. In March, the carriers raised the price of its pilot program from $50 to $60 per month for new customers, with the company revealing at its Analyst Day last month that it ended 2020 with 100,000 subscribers in the pilot program, which is pretty good. To end it with 100,000 subscribers means that people are sticking around with the service, right? Because it's not like a pilot program where they're getting access for free. They were paying $50 a month for this. T-Mobile said that the event that it would target rural areas with limited home broadband competition, as well as urban areas with multiple providers. The company hopes to have 500,000 homes with internet by the end of the year, with 7 to 8 million customers by 2025. I don't know. I think it's going to be a very, very competitive market heading towards 2025, again, with Starlink and with continuous development when it comes to 6G. More and more companies coming into effect with 6G, and companies in general progressing their broadband capabilities when it comes to hardwired itself, not just wireless, right? So it is a very bold statement to say that they think that they're going to be able to hit 7 to 8 million customers by 2025. I'm not going to doubt them. I'm not going to pretend to understand the market in the States because, again, guys, I'm in Canada. So, hey, interesting things that we're seeing here for sure when it comes to mobility, when it comes to hotspots, and all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to keep it rolling right along. This is something that is going to be very quick, but this article from CNET says Amazon's Prime Day could happen as soon as June, reports say. Last year was very interesting. Prime Day happened in October, and it was one of the latest Prime Days that we ever had. Prime Day typically does happen in June. So when we say that Amazon's Prime Day could happen as soon as June, sure, 100% believable. Last year was the start of the pandemic. A lot of companies were adjusting. The society was adjusting. We didn't know how to act as a society and as companies. A lot of companies didn't make it through the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic right now. So, but more and more companies are switching to online shipping, online services, all that kind of good stuff. And Amazon's business is built around online. So for them to say that they're getting back on schedule with their Prime Day is completely believable. I stayed up all night for Prime Day because I do write a blog as well. And I do share a lot of deals that I find with the community. So there's a lot of us that do that. And to be honest, I found last year's Prime Day very different. I almost wanted to say uneventful, but there was a different marketing strategy that I found from Prime Day last year. And it focused a lot more on lesser known brand names. And the focus wasn't so much on the bigger ticket items. So if people were looking for big deals on some of these more expensive brand names and some of the bigger items, one, supply was just getting into supply being very, very difficult to get some of these bigger ticket items. And two, Amazon was focusing on more of budget-friendly items. That's just the way I saw it. Maybe you guys saw something different, and I think that was a very smart play because with a lot of people being unsure with how work was going, with how society was going, some people could have been a little bit more reserved when it comes to their budgets. So the article goes on to say Amazon's big day of discounts I can't speak today. Amazon's big day of discounts could be coming sooner than expected. Several sources told tech blog Recode Thursday that Amazon's Prime Day would be slated for mid to late June this year. Now, typically, it's the second week of June, somewhere around the 15th or 16th, typically prior to 2020. Normally, Amazon holds the event in July. Okay, fine. Well, July, but June or July, I can't remember now. Maybe it is July that I'm thinking, but still, I think that there is some room for recovery and more companies are involved in Prime Day than before. So I think that there is definitely room to have it in June. But it was bumped to October last year due to logistical difficulties while shipping caused by the pandemic, for sure. Shipping is still not as fast as it used to be because one, we are shipping more and more than ever before. More and more people are ordering from online. Less and less people are going to the actual stores to shop. But they're not even open to do shopping, at least here where I live right now, unless you're just shopping for groceries. Amazon has not made any official announcements about the date, except expect it to last multiple days and to feature discounts on a wide range of products offered by the online retailer. Amazon typically offers big sales on its own line of gadgets, in particular, like the Echoes, the smart speakers, and the smart home gadgets. I do also expect some bigger sales on the, the third gen Fire TV sticks, because there's two different models on Amazon right now, and the only difference is the remote. So I kind of expect them to blow out the older ones with the old remotes. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with them. They're great devices. So if you see those, make sure you grab them. That said, you can usually find discounts on gear from all kinds of brands like Google and other electronic giants sometimes offer competing sales on their sites, and retailers such as Walmart and Best Buy as well. Usually around the same time, you'll see Walmart, Best Buy, Google, all that kind of stuff. And there's some interesting stuff. So make sure you take some time and don't just go with the first sale you see. Like shop around. Maybe somebody else actually has it on for cheaper. And it's been very interesting when it comes to price matching. I've been a little bit confused as to which companies are actually price matching and which ones aren't. My favorite computer store here used to price match all the time, and I would collect points. And through the whole pandemic, they took away their price matching. And it's, I can't blame them. It's hard with the supply and demand. So it is what it is, right? They have to stay alive, just like all the other companies. But Prime Day, at the end of the day, is going to be earlier than October. Expect it mid to late June. And it's going to last a couple days. And go in there understanding what you want to buy, right? Don't just buy whatever you see. Don't impulse buy. Make sure you shop around, check for the deals. All right. So talking about Best Buy, saying that they usually have sales when Amazon Prime Day is around. This thing is very interesting to me because we don't have this here in Canada. And I've been back and forth in regards to my thoughts on Best Buy's beta program. So this is Best Buy's $200 beta program, which is kind of rivals, I'm going to say kind of, Amazon Prime. And the reason I say kind of is because they offer different services. While Amazon Prime offers you either access, discounts, or some kind of features when it comes to Prime Video, maybe some kind of access to its other services, Best Buy will give you access to, its Nerd Squad or its warranty, but they don't have a streaming service like Prime, so it's not bundled in. But to me, it's kind of debatable when it comes to the amount of tech and gadgets that I buy, and some of it being from Best Buy. So if I was to pay one flat fee of $200 and it would cover some of my warranties, I would be inclined to do so, right? To me, that makes sense. But if I'm paying $200 per device that I'm buying, then that doesn't make no sense to me. I'm good. Like, I'll figure it out. That's just how I roll. Now, you guys may be different. That's completely up to you. It's up to you guys to determine the value when it comes to these warranties on the market. So the article starts off by saying Best Buy has started piloting a $200 membership program meant to rival Amazon Prime and Walmart's own take on the subscription service. It's called Best Buy's Beta Program. And while it's a lot more expensive than a year of Prime, which is about $120. It offers perks that focus on providing services to customers who have a bunch of electronics in their home. Now, let's face it, that's everybody who's listening to this podcast or watching this YouTube video. We all got a bunch of tech in our homes. Members will enjoy unlimited Geek Squad tech support on all the technology they own, whether it was purchased from Best Buy or not. And that's a key deal, right? Think about how many times you guys have played tech support on random things that, you may not even know anything about. And usually you start off, did you turn it off and turn it back on? Did you restart your internet? Yeah. But you imagine how many people could have their own personal tech support now. I'm not saying that you don't want to help them, but there's a lot of repetitive questions that us in the tech hemisphere that get asked on a continuous basis. And for Best Buy to say they're going to provide tech support for everything in your house if you didn't buy it from us or not, or whatever, like, that's pretty interesting. They will also get free installation on most products and 2-year warranty protection on most of their purchases. This is what I'm talking about, guys. That's huge, right? That's huge. It's one thing to get the 1-year manufacturer from whatever you buy, but to get the 2-year from a lot of these companies, and just the satisfaction, the simplicity of just being able to take it into a local Best Buy and swapping it out or whatever it is so much better than what manufacturers can offer, right? Manufacturers of these products that we buy don't have a retail store. They don't have a face. You have to deal with either mailing it back and forth or trying to get a hold of their customer service. And it's not always a nice experience. Now, I'm not saying that it's always a nice experience dealing with Best Buy, but actually walking in and being able to talk to someone face to face, there's a certain value to that. And other perks, there are free shipping with no minimum amounts. So that's kind of cool. A 60-day extended return window, which that's pretty cool. There's a lot of things that I might pick up and I forget. I know it sounds weird, but I forget to either open them or to use them within the first couple weeks. Now, not everything, but sometimes, right? I bought a hard drive over there probably a week or two ago, and I haven't even set it up yet, right? So what if, something happens and I need to return that or whatever the case is? This 60-day period, super cool. Exclusive member sale pricing, 10% off subscription services billed through Best Buy, and dedicated concierge support. The membership program, however, doesn't include a subscription-based streaming platform like Prime at the moment. The program is available at selected stores in Iowa, Oklahoma, and Eastern Pennsylvania. It will expand to more locations across Minnesota, North Carolina, and Tennessee in the coming weeks until it becomes available in all 60 stores by the end of April. That's this month, guys. So they're really pushing this program, and I'm kind of down for it. Like, that makes a lot of sense. This is not a bad idea. A spokesperson told Bloomberg that the Best Buy beta program will reach total tech support, and the company's current $200 membership program that offers unlimited tech support and discounted Geek Squad protection in the pilot markets, it may end up replacing total tech support across the US in the future, but that may depend on how well received it is by the retail giants customers. So I'm kind of down for this. You guys let me know Yes or no when it comes to the Best Buy's beta program or their membership program or whatever they're going to call it when it's officially rolling out to all 60 of their stores by the end of this month? Would you guys be interested in the Best Buy beta program? Think about it again, guys. Some of the key factors here is that tech support on all the tech or most of the tech in your home, even if it wasn't bought from Best Buy. The other thing is a majority of the purchases is going to give you the automatic 2 years of Best Buy's warranty. And the 60-day extended return period, no minimums on the free shipping, exclusive member sale pricing on certain items, 10% off subscription stuff. That's some of the key points. So let me know if you guys would be down for Best Buy's $200 membership program when it comes to a Best Buy near you. All right, so this was a very interesting article when I seen it. Everybody is familiar with the Boston Dynamics dance video that was hugely popular on YouTube, where they had the variations of their robots performing a dance. Amazing what they've been able to accomplish when it comes to robotics and AI. Now, this article states Boston Dynamics Spot, which is the dog-shaped robot. It's kind of like a headless robotic dog, tested in combat training with the French army. Wow. I mean, we all knew it was coming, but I didn't really know if I wanted it to happen during my lifetime. I know that sounds weird, but where they're doing combat training with robots. So Boston Dynamics robot dog Spot was one of the several robots tested by the French army during training sessions at the military school in the northwest of France. The Verge and France Quest have reported that it was used during a 2-day training session with the aim of measuring the added value of robots in combat action, said the school commandant Jean-Baptiste Cavalier. The exercise aimed to get students thinking about how robots might be deployed in the future combat situations. The students designed 3 offensive and defensive missions with Spot used primarily for reconnaissance. The scenarios were performed by students first without and then with the aid of the robots. Other robots deployed were remote-controlled tank-like vehicles called the Opto X-20, armed with a cannon and a Barracuda, an armor-plated wheeled drone designed to provide cover to advancing soldiers. The robots reportedly slowed the operation down, but kept the troops safer. That's a good trade-off. Yes, you may be a little bit slower, but you're still alive. With one soldier saying that he died in the first exercise without Spot, but survived the second time thanks to the robot's reconnaissance. Battery life was supposedly an issue. I mean, with all new tech, generally battery life is. As Spot ran out of juice in the middle of one exercise. Oh, man. The robots were loaned to the army by the European distributor Shark Robotics and Nexter Group. According to the tweet by the military school, I'm not even going to try and say that, Quidian Spot manufacturer Boston Robotics said it knew that its robots were being used by the French government and military, but it had not been alerted about this specific exercise. So that's really interesting. You know, you can create a product, but you never necessarily know what that product's going to be used for. And in this case, Boston Robotics didn't know that it was being used in a combat exercise. So I don't know if there's a morality question somewhere in there. I feel like there is. How do you guys feel about that? I mean, if you created a dog and showed off that it could dance, and then the army or a militant group took it and started doing combat training with it, how would that make you feel as the manufacturer of the device? Not necessarily disclosing that information. Very interesting stuff, guys. Some of Boston Dynamics' early robots included the Atlas, which was funded by the U.S. military department, But the company has slowly moved away from military ties. The company's current terms and conditions bar them from being used to harm or intimidate any person, animal as a weapon, or to enable any weapon. Now, maybe someone from the combat mission situation knew this, right? Because they said that the robots were used mainly for reconnaissance, right? It wasn't used to attack or anything like that. It slowed them down. It provided them more information, but they weren't used to harm any animals or people, and it wasn't used as a weapon. So there's no immediate, at least as far as we know, contradictions to its terms and services. Still, Boston Robotics isn't necessarily against using robots to take soldiers out of harm's way, the company said, and is still evaluating that idea of using robots for reconnaissance and other more passive duties. The company's rival Ghost Robotics Spotlight robots have already been deployed by the U.S. Army to patrol Air Force installations. Now, there was an update on April 9th, and the update says the article has been updated to reflect the fact that Boston Dynamics knew its robots were being used by the French government and military, but not about this particular usage. So when this article first came out, it was written slightly different, saying that Boston Dynamics had no idea about any of this stuff, but they were aware of some of it, but not about the specific combat training exercise. So very interesting stuff when we get into AI, robotics, and I guess morality of it all, right? Because companies saying, do they need to approve everything and every situation that their products are being used in? And how could they even police that once they buy it, right? So it's very interesting stuff. I don't know, man. I could go complete sci-fi on this one and conspiracy theories and total Skynet, but I'll leave that up to your guys' imagination. The last one that we have here for today is will.i.am. The singer comes out with something that he calls the xupermask. Now, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but it's spelled with an X, like supermask, but with an X. It is costing $300. It's a HEPA face mask with ANC earphones built into it. Looks really cool. So it says, with face coverings becoming a necessity during the pandemic, we've seen countless variations of masks from the worlds of fashions, merchandise, and tech. Now, when I went to CES again, we saw some ones that came out from Razer, some really cool looking ones. So it's, it doesn't faze me that there's going to be more and more variations and more tech implemented into masks, because let's face it, going forward, it looks like face masks, face shields, whatever you want to call them, is more and more of our everyday life now. So will.i.am is a pop star who has tried with varying levels of success to straddle all of those industries when it comes to fashion, merchandise, and tech. The Black Eyed Peas frontman has teamed up with Honeywell. So this is a reputable company, guys. This is Honeywell on a $300 tech imbued face mask that wouldn't look out of place in a cyberpunk movie or a game. So if you guys are on the YouTube side, then you can see the picture, but you can kind of imagine a more tech style mask that has kind of these ventilation cups that look like speakers that I highly doubt they are, but you can see that in the actual ears, it covers your ears, but there's almost like an indentation or a form of an ear for the mask, and you can actually put the earphone in there. So it's a very interesting design. Now, it says that it's borrowing from Razer's mask that I was talking about from CES, and it features LED day glow lights to further tap into that futuristic neon aesthetic. The face mask goes on sale on April 8th in North America, so it's already on sale in North America and in Europe via the dedicated website, which is xupermask.com, where it will be available in 2 different colors, which is black and white, and 2 different sizes. It's not entirely surprising to see will.i.am dabbing in face masks, dabbling in face masks. His work in the tech sphere has already seen him release a smartwatch or 2, iPhone's accessories, and those aforementioned earbuds. His company will.i.am Plus also acquired a smart home hub maker and tried to buy wireless earphones startup Erin through the deal that fell through. All of which is to say that his music career has been far more successful than his bid to become a tech entrepreneur. Now, I wouldn't completely agree with how that's being written. I always, support the hustle. He is continuously trying to take himself to the next level, take himself beyond. We are not just one thing as people. We're not just singers. We're not just, YouTubers. We're not just people on podcasts. He looks to create things that he would enjoy, and he's continuously trying to improve on that. So let's not look at which one is more successful, but let's just appreciate the hustle. And that's where I'm going with that one. But I think that it's very interesting. My questions about this, although it looks cool, I have questions about it cleaning. Now let's just go over to the website, right? So I'm going to click on the website here. You can see that he is the frontline model of the xupermask. So it has it being shown in multiple situations. It does look very nice. Definitely very high quality. Now, that's only a statement of visually how it looks without actually having it in my hand. But it has the white and the black model. The video or the commercial for this is very cyberpunky. Very, very cyberpunky. So you can see there's the white and the black version of it. I'm going to click on tech specs. And it says in the box, you're going to get a fanny pack, 3 sets of HEPA filters. So that's good that you can actually replace the HEPA filters, because my question was, how do you keep it clean and sanitized? 3 sets of ear tips. You have small, medium, and large. You have the fabric mask, a USB charging cable. Now, I would have liked to know if that was USB-C, because I have a thing for USB-C. I can't help it. Audio, we're looking at Bluetooth 5.0, noise reduction, micro headphones, active noise cancellation mode, ambient mode, off mode, 9 audio prompts, silicone ear tips that also comes in the 3 sizes, magnetic earbud docking. So power-wise, we're looking at that it lasts up to 7 hours on a single charge, 2 hours on a full charge, lightweight dual lithium-ion batteries, dual day glow lights, external charging ports, and the battery is rated at 730 milliamps. 3 HEPA filters, dual activated fan ventilation, easy to remove filters. So it's got day glow LEDs, right side LED indicator for the fan when it comes to charging and battery levels, left side LED indicator for Bluetooth, 6 external mask control buttons, fan buttons, ANC buttons, light buttons, audio up button, audio multi-function buttons, audio down buttons. So a lot of buttons on this thing for sure. All of them have specific functions and features. So very, very interesting stuff. Let me know if you guys are looking forward to a cyberpunk ready mask for $300, brought to you by Honeywell, which is a reputable company, and will.i.am. So that's going to bring us to a close here. Very interesting stuff when it comes to the world of tech. We are going to have a lot more podcasts coming your way in regards to what's coming out in the tech world, some news that's coming out, all kinds of stuff. You never know who's going to be a part of the podcast, who we're interviewing, who we're having a blast with, who we're having a conversation with, and who we are going beyond with. So make sure that you guys check out the links in the description below. If you're looking to support us, make sure you drop that thumbs up, the subscribe. If you're following us on whatever platform, you hit us with a review so other listeners like yourself can find the content, and you leave us a comment down below. And make sure you check out the live streams as well over on the Beyond the Streams YouTube channel. Check us on all the different platforms, and we will see you guys on the next one. Peace.